The state of Martin Luther King County, the place they built for us and the place we're building for others, is strong, resilient, vibrant. Yes, we have challenges, but we also have solutions and the vision and determination to see them through.
That's King County Executive Dow Constantine from his State of the County address back in June of this year. And when it comes to the trials and tribulations of leading the county since 2009, he has indeed seen that through. But he's also just announced he is not running again for his position next year. So how will losing the longest-serving county executive in modern history impact King County going forward? And what does that mean when it comes to some unfinished business on homelessness, light rail expansion, and other challenges for our region? Well, we are discussing these issues and so much more this week on Seattle News, Views, and Brews, your coffee break political podcast. I'm Brian Callanan. I'm a host on the Seattle channel. The views expressed on this show are mine. My co-host David Croman is on leave, and I am so honored to have with me King County Executive Dow Constantine on the program this week. Executive Constantine is a fellow West Seattleite, so I wanted to start off by asking, do you consider West Seattle a great neighborhood or the greatest neighborhood in all of King County? So Executive Constantine is a fellow West Seattleite, and I wanted to ask right off the top here, do you consider West Seattle a great neighborhood or the greatest neighborhood in all of King County?
Immodestly, I would say it is the greatest. And I would not live anywhere else. I welcome others to live elsewhere to make those places great as well. But I'm so glad that you and I are neighbors here.
Well said. Well said. Thank you very much. Executive Constantine, thank you very much for being here. Thanks also to City Grind Espresso, the background noise sponsor for the audio podcast on the first floor of Seattle City Hall. Thanks always to my show patrons. Joe just joined in this past week. Thanks a lot, Joe. And folks, I'm going to be jumping back on city budget issues next week after the smoke clears a little bit. Some Seattle Channel news there, too. And a reminder, patrons who contribute to this show get their questions answered on the show. That's happening today. Thanks to Britt, Carl, Catherine, Robin for chiming in. And everybody, check it out on Patreon if you're not a member already. Seattle News, Views, and Brews. A big thanks also to Converge Media. The video version of the podcast is on Converge Wednesday nights at 7. All right, let's do this time for right here, right now. Executive Constantine, I just want to start with the question of why decide not to run again now? And I think really about the challenges, to put it lightly, of another Trump administration and how that's going to affect local governments across the U.S., including King County. I know there's some people out there saying your county needs you, Dow. Why not seek another term?
I am just finishing my 15th year. It was 15 years ago next week that I was sworn in as Ron Sims' successor. And I have another year and month and a few days left on this term, so got plenty more to do. But I decided a while back that I would not run for a fifth term. No one has ever even served 4 terms in this job. Some days I can see why, but the fact is that we have great people in this county who are ready to step up and lead, and I'm sure we're going to have a robust campaign and elect someone who is ready to carry the place forward.
That's fair. That's fair. Let me jump back, and I wanted to make sure I asked this question too. I guess I'll put it another way here. Based on a message I received from one of my patrons, Catherine, she writes this: what advice would you give to a new county executive taking over in early 2026, given the political climate we are re-entering?
Well, I saw the county through the first Trump administration, and it was not easy. A lot of our success depends on partnerships with the federal government. During the Obama administration, for example, we had a great partnership to drive down veterans' homelessness, and we're enormously successful. The Biden administration has been tremendously helpful in things like our climate response. The EPA awarded us a $50 million grant for local actions to reduce our carbon emissions and ready our region for climate change. Those partnerships don't happen during a Trump administration, or at least didn't happen during the last one. But more than that, in the time of a crisis, when we are used to looking to the federal government for leadership, we got anything but leadership when COVID hit. We were struggling to help save lives here, to use science to guide us, and the administration was approaching it through a purely political lens and really putting people's health and lives in danger. So I am obviously deeply concerned for not just our county or region, but for the country. But I do know that we have excellent people working every day to deliver those services that allow our residents to succeed, to thrive. And that is going to continue no matter who is in the White House.
I understand that, no matter who is the executive, too. Is there one challenge that really stands out to you? I know Mayor Harrell at the city of Seattle is setting aside some dollars to help with immigrant and refugee legal funds, and et cetera. Is there anything that jumps out at you in terms of, boy, you really got to keep your eye on this?
Yeah, we actually put in place ongoing funds to help refugees and immigrants, asylum seekers, starting with the Syrian migration over a decade ago. And that has continued. Our motto, our true north, is that King County is a welcoming community where every person can thrive. And that is true whether your family has been here for millennia or whether you have just arrived for whatever reason. The fact is that we have a lot of ongoing challenges that preceded my time and a lot of ongoing challenges that will be here after I've gone. Climate, housing, the housing shortage, and the attendant challenge of homelessness, simple issues around income inequality, and the fact that while so many people are doing very well, others are being left behind in this region. So while there are a lot of challenges, they are ongoing challenges, but we also have a lot of resiliency, a lot of capacity, and the will to solve them, to take them on, and to continue helping people to be able to live a successful life here in King County.
Thank you very much for that. I wanted to switch gears a little bit with you, if I could, and talk about some of the challenges you've been through as executive when it comes to the county's youth jail and the downtown jail. Those examples really stand out to me because I know at first you were against closing the youth jail. Then in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests in 2020, you did want to close it. More recently, there's been a lot of talk about other methods of secure detention for youth offenders. So I wanted to nail this down. Do you think your approach to youth incarceration has changed in response to different political times? Has it stayed consistent? How would you describe your views?
Well, we've learned over the years what actually works. And when I say works, I mean works in terms of getting kids' lives turned around and having them become productive adults in our community rather than adult guests of the criminal system. When we built the new detention facility, which is part of a much larger facility, the Children and Families Justice Center, it was to replace one that was falling down, that had failing systems and was in urgent need of replacement. What we know now, and I think we know better than we did then, is that different approaches can reach our goals of turning kids' lives around better than simply a mini version of adult jail. For example, especially for those who are accused of lesser offenses or are lower risk, having a more home-like environment, which they may not have in their actual home, having responsible adult supervision, and having a community with peers to whom you are responsible and for whom your choices matter can equip you to do better when you're out back in the larger community, which is going to happen, right? So if we're committed to actually getting kids to become responsible adults, we're going to have to do something more than keep them in line through detention and intimidation until they're released back out into the neighborhood without having acquired the skills to be able to act responsibly.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There are kids who are accused of much more serious crimes, and for them, you need something with a lock on the door to keep them and the community safe. It's a much longer path for them. The goal is still the same, though, which is to get lives turned around so that you don't have kids being back in the system in their 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Right. Well, let's move on to that and talk about the adult jail, too. I know you've talked a lot about closing down this facility. Help me out with that thought. Is the idea to close it down, open, or build something new? Or what's the story with the King County Jail?
The downtown jail was built in the 1980s, which for some of us doesn't sound like that long ago, but it's actually kind of old for a jail. And worse than that, it was built on an old model. A model that is very labor intensive and a model that does not work for the purposes we have, which is to get people with challenges calm down and to start working on their underlying problems so that they can be released safely, ultimately into the community, which is going to happen. We need to replace that, and we should not replace it in kind with another outmoded facility. We should replace it with one that can deal with the huge number of folks who have mental health challenges, who have addiction challenges, who have physical health challenges, who need some intensive interventions beyond simply being locked up, waiting to be tried and potentially sent to prison or released. I think that constructing that kind of a facility will produce better outcomes. It will also, importantly, allow us to remove that dead zone from the middle of downtown Seattle and replace it with something that actually contributes to the life of the city.
Yeah. You've talked a lot about this. Is that dream any closer to reality, to try to bring in something different into that area, really remake that campus of King County?
It is. This is a multi-year, probably multi-decade effort, but we are working bit by bit to stand up this work to remake the 7 or 8 blocks the county owns around the downtown courthouse into a residential neighborhood. It could accommodate thousands, 5,000, 7,000, maybe even 10,000 units of housing. It can accommodate retail and safe public spaces. It could be a place that really contributes to a vibrant downtown and to the health of Pioneer Square, the International District, the Business District, Isler Terrace, and more. All of that is possible, but there are some challenges. We have an empty office building, the administration building. We have a jail sitting there contributing nothing to downtown Seattle. We have the potential of Sound Transit building a light rail station there, which will be in construction for many years. So it's complex. I'm actually co-teaching a class on this topic at the College of Built Environments at the University of Washington this fall. It's complex, but ultimately it will be one of the greatest opportunities the city has to remake itself and put itself on a path for a more successful future.
Really interested in seeing what's happening next there. Thank you very much. Professor Constantine, good to hear about that class too.
All
right, coming up, not professor yet, maybe not. Coming up in our next segment here, some questions from our patrons regarding what's happening with our King County Regional Homelessness Authority, from where it started to where it's going. That's coming up on Now Hear This. Remember, if you will, back to December of 2019. We're 4 months before a worldwide COVID pandemic that nobody saw coming, and County Executive Constantine and then Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan joined together at a press conference full of hope to announce a new approach to people who are unhoused in our region, the King County Regional Homelessness Authority.
We're fixing our fragmented response system so that we can make best use of our resources to make a difference in people's lives. We're coordinating services and funding, and we're bringing people with lived experience into our deliberations to better tackle disproportionality and ensure that our policies have the desired impact in the real world.
That was then. This is now. I received a message from a patron about the KCRHA. It's from Britt. Thank you very much, Britt. She wrote this. What has worked with the Regional Homelessness Authority, and how can we take that success to make the rest of the authority better for our neighbors in need? What is the biggest challenge for the authority, and how can it be improved, or should it just be scrapped? Executive Constantine, what has worked with the KCRHA? And I know you've heard this question too. Should it be scrapped? What do we got?
Well, as you heard in the earlier clip, the reason we stood it up is because we had a fragmented system. City of Seattle was putting out contracts. The county was putting out other conflicting, often contracts. These poor nonprofit providers were scurrying around, filling out paperwork instead of helping people. So we wanted to unite all of that. And that concept is right. It stumbled out of the gate. We now have a new CEO in Kelly Kinnison, who's an excellent professional. And she, since she's been there, has helped us with the kinds of things the Homeless Authority can help with. For example, there was an encampment that popped up sort of spontaneously in Burien on county property. She led the authority in contacting those people, working with them, getting them all housed so that we could close down that and clean up our property. The authority's job is to engage people who are in crisis right now on the streets. Our job as the city, as the county, as the state, is to continue to figure out how to build the housing that is lacking so that every person can have a roof over their head. When that happens, as we see in other cities that have a surplus of housing, homelessness is very rare and very brief.
Got it. I did want to talk about the city of Seattle is very much a partner in this. They provide about half of the funding for the KCRHA. I'd say the county provides generally the other half here. I know that Mayor Harrell has been working to really pull back control over services like outreach and prevention. And the city has basically told the agency things better get better or funding might go away. And I just wanted to ask, is the county drawing that line in the sand too when it comes to funding?
No, well, of course, we're responsible for Seattle and all the rest of our cities, as well as the unincorporated areas. So we are all in regardless, but the city very much wants this regional approach to help. Homelessness does not respect municipal boundaries, just like so many of the other challenges we face. And they know that homelessness in Burien or Auburn or on the east side ultimately affects Seattle as well. So we are all in, and we are here to make it work. And I think we have the will again and the capacity in this region to be successful in helping people in crisis, even as we deal with the underlying causes of homelessness, which very much include the shortage of housing.
Yep. How do you get more cities on board? I'm thinking about the 39 cities that are around King County, and how do you get them to put a little more skin in the game? Because I know that's been a challenge for this authority since it started too.
This is not the only place where there's a sort of stone soup approach. Everybody bring the thing you have to add to the pot,
Yeah.
and we'll have something.
Yeah.
And a lot of the cities are taking individual actions for their cities that contribute to the good of the whole. I would encourage all of them, including Seattle, to be all in on the Regional Homeless Authority, just as they have been given seats at the table for the authority, and to contribute to solving the problem countywide. There's a problem in Pierce County and Snohomish County, across the state and nation as well. So it respects no borders. But whatever we can do here in King County to get people inside, get them housed, if they need treatment, to get them the treatment they need, and then to get them back on their feet, working and earning a living, we ought to be doing that.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to shift gears, if I could, towards Sound Transit with you, Executive Constantine, and your accomplishments in moving the Sound Transit 3 light rail plan through. But with that, always comes some questions. My patron Robin asks this one. Would love to hear more about Sound Transit expansion plans, the new cost estimates for West Seattle, and plans for the Ballard Link. Should we push forward on one to get it done and then do the other? How could a lack of federal grants affect the project? Let's talk about this. Getting Sound Transit back on track. Do you move these projects around? Do you do them more sequentially? What do you got?
Well, first off, this would have been a lot easier to do if we would have approved building rail back in 1968, 1970 when I was a kid.
Yep.
That didn't happen.
Atlanta got our system. Is that what it was?
Atlanta got our system and our federal money, which was, I think, about a 90% match at the time. So we're playing catch up, building in a much more densely populated, densely built out region. And the run up in construction costs over the course of the last 5 years is a real challenge. But it is not unlike the challenges we faced over the decades. We have to really focus, sharpen our pencils, and figure out how to push through these things. One thing we've learned in the last decade is that while delay may look like a useful tactic in order to be able to afford things, ultimately the projects end up costing more and you get less value out of them because they're delivered later. So delay, pushing projects out is not a very successful way to approach this. You can adjust the scope and do less. You can also figure out how to do better with your financing and the costs of doing the projects that you've constructed or that you're constructing. And that's why I've brought in new leadership during my time as chair this time at Sound Transit. We're remaking the agency to be able to deliver better, faster, smarter. And I am excited about our opportunities to finally deliver the system that Jim Ellis and other city fathers and mothers imagined when I was a kid.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
That idea, though, of splitting off certain parts of it, let's pay for this part first and then maybe work on this. Is that on the table at all? This is a West Seattleite like you that wants to have the service as soon as possible.
So Ballard and West Seattle were part of one project originally. We split them apart to do just that. Ballard had the downtown tunnel assigned to it. That is more of a fiction because that tunnel is for the entire region. It's for Everett, it's for Tacoma, it's for everybody. The cost increases that we're seeing on West Seattle are very similar to the pressures that will come to bear on Ballard and after that Tacoma and Everett. And we simply need to plan for all of that. We're bringing in national finance experts as well as new staff within the agency. And I have every confidence that with a lot of hard work and no small number of hard decisions, we're going to be able to push through and extend rail just as the voters approved in 2016.
Got it. I'm just trying to figure out getting this agency back on track. The leadership, I know, has been an issue. The cost overruns have been an issue, too. Do they need a new leader by the name of Dow Constantine? Is that in the cards? What do you got?
Well, I've spent quite a lot of time leading this agency as chair. In fact, when Joni Earle left because of health reasons, I happened to be the chair. And Rachel Smith, now the head of the Seattle Chamber,
yes,
she was my deputy at the time, sort of took over as the shadow CEOs. And got the Sound Transit 3 plan up and running and approved by the voters. So I've been very confident in bringing in the new leadership I brought in, and Jerron Sparman. Terry Mestis, our new Capitol CEO we brought up from Los Angeles, is excellent, and she's remaking the Capitol side of the House. And we're going to continue pushing ahead on that reformation of the agency. This is the benefit of being around for 15 years, is you know how to do some of these things.
That's right. That's right. Well, we'll see what else is next here for Executive Dow Constantine, because coming up, we're going to look back and forward. We're going to talk about some perhaps missed opportunities in the past, perhaps decisions he wished he could do over again, and looking ahead, what is the next career move for the county's longest-serving executive? We'll explore these questions on What's Next. All right, Executive Constantine, time for that question about, is there a decision you made or maybe didn't make over the course of a decade and a half in office you wish you had back?
Oh, I'm sure there are dozens of them. I have said this to a few folks, and I'll say it to you again. I sort of alluded to this earlier, but the housing crisis is something that was brewing back when I was first elected, back in the first decade of the millennium, but has grown and grown and grown. A lot of the challenges that we see out there as symptoms are related directly to that housing crisis, whether it's people trying to buy a home who can't, or whether it's people being pushed out of the housing market entirely. And I think if I had to do it over again, I would have worked to organize the region around a much more robust approach to both market-driven and publicly driven housing production.
Yeah, got it. I did want to ask about your legacy here. We had one of my patrons write in about this, was curious about this. What do you hope people remember about your long term as executive?
This question, the answer to this question may change over the course of the next year as I have a chance to really ponder all that we've done. But the expansion of our transit system is obviously high on the list. Best Starts for Kids, where we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars in the next generation. The nation's most comprehensive early childhood program, I think, is a huge achievement. And our crisis care centers levy, which just passed a while ago, which was going to finally create the capacity to treat people who are in a mental health or addiction crisis, to get them into the longer-term treatment they need, and to bring in the workforce that we have to have, because it takes people to treat people. Those are major additions to the infrastructure that will allow people to live successful lives. Remember, as I said, our true north is that we are a welcoming community where every person can thrive. And when you have early childhood support, when you have the ability to get housing, when you have help when you face a life-altering challenge, you can stay on the path, stay on your feet, keep at that work of economic security, and ultimately succeed. So I'm proud of that work, and I'm sure there's much more that we could discuss.
Got it. I know there is. There always is. And I do need to wrap up with you, though. I did want to point out you have a love for music that goes back to your college days as a DJ at KCMU at the University of Washington.
That's right.
Now known as KXP. They've really taken off. I don't know if you're aware of that since you left. But I did want to ask, is all this talk about not running again just a prologue to the story of you growing your hair out, joining a rock band, touring Japan? Let us know what's happening.
I've talked to every one of my friends who's in a band asking if they need a little help. I'm available for backup singing, tambourine, anything they need. But seriously, I love music. I met my wife working at KCMU, actually. Yep. And one of the things I'm looking forward to is having a little more time to get to some more shows rather than just evening meetings in the future.
I can't wait to hear more about that. Dow Constantine, the executive of King County, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks so much, Brian.
And thanks, everybody, for listening to Seattle News, Views, and Brews, where you can always find out what's brewing in local politics. Thanks again to patrons who support the show. If you're not a patron, join in. Find this podcast on Patreon, Seattle News, Views, and Brews. You can hear us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. Thanks for watching on Converge Media, too. We'll see you next time. Seattle News, Views, and Brews is an independent production of Callanan Media Services. Copyright 2024.